In the previous video we described how a list control can have hierarchical data in it. So when you click on an item in the list, if the list has a sublist, that sublist is then used to populate the list, and then a back button becomes enabled. In this next video we're going to show how you can start from scratch and create a list with hierarchical data. So let's exit the list, this UX component, and start now with a brand new UX component. And we'll go over to controls and we'll choose the list control, and we'll just call this list 1 over there. And now when we start to configure this list, we're going to choose static data, and now we'll use sample data. And in the list of available sample data types, you'll see this item here called nested list Genie. And the explanation over here tells you that you need to click this button here to bring up the Genie, and then once you're done, then to go to the quick access hyperlink and choose the quick setup Genie. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we'll click the nested Genie over here, and we'll start creating our our tree structure of menu items. So I'll go here and type in, say, menu 1, menu 2, menu 3, and then let's go to menu 1 and put in sub 1, sub 2, sub 3, and then we'll go to, say, sub 1 over here, and we'll type in say grand child 1, grand child 2, and then we'll go over to, say, menu 2 and type in, say, alpha, beta, and then go here and type in, say, gamma, and say delta, and then so we're just typing in some sort of random menu choices, and then if I click OK here, you'll see that this tree here has been populated for me. Now for any item in the tree, I can go and define an optional icon. You have to choose CSS icon, so we'll choose from the Font Awesome selection. We'll go ahead and choose, say, a star there, and we'll make it, say, 2 times the normal size, and let's also go and give this icon a color. So we'll go and choose that pinkish color over there. So you don't have to give all of the menu choices icons, and in this case I'm going to just give one of them an icon. So, and then also the endpoints, you can see right now I've left the action name blank, so alpha will automatically assign an action, but you can also go and specify arbitrary action names for the endpoint. So now when I go ahead and click OK, you'll see that this JSON data has been generated for me automatically, and you'll see that this follows the structure that we described in the first video. So this is an array of objects. Each object has a display property, an optional icon property, and an optional children property, which would indicate that menu 1 has sub choices. So now if I go ahead and click OK and then click OK, you can see now that the static data in the list has been defined, and then the list itself has these properties over there, and then the layout of the list, I can just go ahead now and select that layout over there. But now when I run this list, we'll see that it looks nothing like a nested list. There's menu 1, menu 2, menu 3, but I'm not seeing the cascading list effect. I'm not seeing any of the features that I expect. So let's go back now to the list, and now we're going to go to the quick access, and we'll access the quick setup Genie, and we'll choose the nested list option here. So the nested list option allows you to specify where the back button appears. So the back button can either be your own button, which might appear, say, in a panel card header or a footer, or position 1 indicates that that's actually going to be inside the list itself. So let's pause now and pick this up in the next video. So we're continuing now with the Genie that sets up the nested lists. So now we can specify that if we can use this Genie to define the data, but we've already done that, so we don't need to define the data now. If we had said yes now, then we would bring up the builder that helps us create the hierarchical JSON data, but we've already done that, so we can just leave that as no. Then we can turn animation on, which means that when you make a selection in the list that has a sublist, the list will be animated as that sublist populates, but we're not going to turn that on right now. Then you can specify what the property in the JSON object is that contains the actual HTML that will be displayed in the list, and by default it's set here to display, which is the value that the Genie generated. So if we look at our JSON static data, we'll see that there's a property for each row in the array that has a property called display, which is the actual value that will be displayed in the list. And this is the so-called endpoint JavaScript. This is the JavaScript that's going to be executed when the user selects an item in the menu that does not have a submenu. So right now we're going to just put up an alert that said you selected, and then the name of the action, the endpoint action. So we'll go ahead now, and when we click OK now, what's going to happen is Alpha is going to automatically set certain properties in the list so that the list behaves in the appropriate fashion. It's going to set the onInitialize event, it's going to set the onClick event, it's going to set the freeform template for the list, and it's going to set the fixed header for the list. So let's go ahead now and click OK. And now when we look at our list, we can see that we now see a freeform template over here. The list itself has been changed from a tabular list to a freeform list, and then the fixed header HTML for the list has been defined over here, and you'll see that basically this fixed header is using an item called list go back. So if we go now and we look at template items, we can see there's an item there called list go back, and when the user does that, this method here is going to be executed. So there's going to be a method called nested list go back, and if we go now and look inside our list events, we'll see that the onInitialize event has been generated for us, and here's the code here's the list go back method, and here's the do action, which is the function that is called when the user selects an item in the list that selects an item in the list, and depending on whether that item has a submenu or is an endpoint, the appropriate code will be executed. So now let's go ahead, now that we've used the Genie to set up this list, let's go ahead and run it now. So there's menu 1, there's the submenu 1, there's grandchild 1, there's our endpoint. If I go now back, I can go back one level at a time. And now we can go through this data. You can see this particular path here had many levels of nesting, so now we go up one level, up one level, up one level, and then basically get all the way to the top. So in this particular case, the back buttons are being shown in the list itself, but we can just as easily go here. Let's go and take this list now and wrap it in a panel card. So we'll go over to panels, we'll put it in a panel card. So we'll insert the panel card around that. Then let's go here and put the panel header on, and inside this panel header let's go and put in a button, and I'm going to pause now and pick this up in the next video. So we're continuing now, so let's go to this button here. We'll just turn off the break, and we're also going to go now and set this button subtheme to be a left button. So now when we run the component, we still haven't hooked this button up, so when we go now and we make a selection, the back button is still appearing in the list itself. So we'll go back now to our list, and we'll go over to our list properties, and we'll go back to our Genie over here, and we'll go over here and we'll change this to position number 2, and then we'll define the button ID over there. Go ahead now and click OK, and then we can go and we can just confirm that we don't want a fixed header anymore, so let's go and turn that off over there. Now we'll go and run this now. So when we go ahead now and click on this button, there's our button appearing over there in the panel header, but the panel header wasn't displayed initially, and that's because the button was hidden and there was nothing else in the panel header. So let's go back to this panel header and just put some static text in over there, and inside the static text we'll just put a non-breaking space. So I'll go add sign ampersand in NBSP, and then let's also display this in a mobile preview so we can see the behavior now. So we'll go ahead now, and let's also change this list to fill the container. So here we go now, and there's our list, there's our back button. So you can see now we've got a list control that really is executing a pattern that's very common in many mobile applications. So the whole setup of this list was defined by Genie. We didn't have to write any code ourselves. However, the code that is being executed is all exposed so that you can make modifications to the code should you wish to. Thanks very much for watching.